Oh, what happened to Tricky? He has become hugely fat, like a bloated sausage. His eyes are bloodshot. Bloated sausage means swollen meat.
He was so listless, Mr. Harriot. He have no energy. I thought he is suffering from malnutrition. So, I've been giving him some extras to build him up. Some malt, cod liver oil, and a Horlicks at night to make him sleep. It's nothing much.
And did you cut down on the sweet things, as I told you?
Oh, I did it, for a bit. But, he seems so weak. He loves ice creams, and cakes, and chocolates. I can't refuse him.
Tricky's only fault is greed. He never refused to eat. He can eat anything, at any hour. And upon this, Mrs. Pumphrey is providing sweet things to him. Are you giving him plenty of exercise?
Yes. He has some little walks with me, as you can see.
Now, I really mean this. If you don't cut his food down, and don't give him exercise, he is going to be really ill. You must harden your heart, and keep him on a strict diet.
Oh, I will, Mr. Harriot. I'm sure you are right. But, it's very difficult. Okay.
Mr. Harriot watched the progress. Tricky had a whole wardrobe of coats. Coats for the cold weather, coats for rain. Mr. Harriot guessed Tricky will become more ill, and Pumphrey's call will come soon. The call came in a few days.
Tricky is eating nothing. He's refusing even his favorite dishes. He is vomiting. He spends all his time lying on a rug. He don't want to go on walks.
Mr. Harriot thought the only way to recover Tricky was to get him out of his house. Otherwise, Mrs. Pumphrey will make him even more ill.
Mrs. Pumphrey. Tricky has to be admitted into the hospital for about a fortnight.
A fortnight is a period of 2 weeks.
He will die if he will not see me.
But Tricky is very ill, and this is the only way to save him. And it will be good if he will be taken out without delay. Mr. Harriot entered his car, carrying the little dog, wrapped in a blanket. The maids of Mrs. Pumphrey rushed in and out, bringing his day bed, night bed, cushions, toys and rubber rings, breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, supper bowl. Mr. Harriot thought, his car will not be able to hold stuff anymore. So, he started to drive away. At the surgery, the other dogs surrounded Mr. Harriot. Tricky looked at them, laying motionless on the carpet. The dogs sniffed around Tricky. After some time, they found him uninteresting, and ignored him. Harriot made a bed for Tricky, in a loose warm box, next to the one where other dogs slept. For 2 days, he kept an eye on him, giving him no food, but plenty of water. Then, Tricky started to show some interest in his surroundings. Now, Tricky is interested in playing with the other dogs. I will give him food now, but no medicines. From then on, his progress was rapid. He had no medical treatment of any kind. All day, he just ran with the dogs, joining in their friendly fights. He discovered the joys of being with them. He became an accepted member of the dogs' gang, an unlikely object in the crew, fighting like a tiger, and hunting rats at night. He had never had such a time in his life. Mrs. Pumphrey asked about Tricky dozen times a day. Mr. Harriot would say that he was recovering rapidly. But, when Mrs. Pumphrey came to know that Tricky was recovering, she started to bring eggs, 2 dozen at one time, to build up his strength. She also sent wine and brandy for him. But, nothing was given to Tricky. Instead, Mr. Harriot and his assistants enjoyed the food stuff. Because Tricky didn't need this type of diet. I want to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest. Because I want the meal every day. But I know Mrs. Pumphrey is suffering. I'll call her. Mrs. Pumphrey, the little dog has recovered and is waiting.
I'm coming.
Within minutes, she arrived by car.
Harriot, please tell me the truth. Is he really better?
Yes! He is fine. You don't need to get out of the car. I'll go and fetch him. He went in. A mass of dogs were hurtling round and round. And in the middle was the little Tricky. He had been transformed to a hard-muscled animal. When Mr. Harriot brought him to the gate, Tricky jumped down from his arms, and
Ooh.
Mr. Harriot helped to bring out the toys, cushions, beds, coats, bowls, which were sent by her. But none of them were used.
Oh. Mr. Harriot. How can I thank you? This is a triumph of surgery.